Okay, let's unpack this. There's this high-profile trip to the Middle East by a former U.S. president.
Right.
And, well, it raises some eyebrows when you look at how closely personal business interests seem to be tangled up with international diplomacy.
Yeah, it's a pattern worth looking into.
So for this deep dive, we're really focusing on the potential for conflicts of interest, specifically, how the family and business ties of this former president overlap with diplomatic activities.
Activities both from his administration and potentially future ones in places like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE.
Exactly. And we're drawing mainly from a pretty detailed segment we found from France 24 on YouTube. It lays out a lot of these connections.
It highlights this convergence, doesn't it,
Yeah.
between state diplomacy on one hand and, well, personal or family financial interests on the other. It's quite striking.
It really is. The France 24 report kicks things off in Riyadh. There was this big economic forum.
Right, not just any forum.
No, exactly. We're talking about some real heavy hitters from American business there. People like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman. They were all present.
Wow, that's quite the guest list.
And the backdrop is potentially massive Saudi investment in the U.S. The figure mentioned is up to, what, $600 billion? Maybe more?
$600 billion, that's
Yeah.
a huge sum. And the report also mentioned a possible quid pro quo.
Yeah, it touched on the U.S. maybe approving civilian nuclear projects for Saudi Arabia. A reciprocal gesture, perhaps.
So these are major state-level discussions, things with big geopolitical, big economic consequences.
Definitely. Large-scale investment, nuclear tech sharing. These aren't small decisions.
No, they usually get intense scrutiny because the impact lasts for decades.
And the fact these talks are happening around the former president's visit while his family's businesses are also expanding there, it makes you look closer.
Understandably, you start wondering about potential influence.
And that family business footprint, it's not small. The report mentions the Trump Organization, of course, now run by his sons.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really interesting with the timing. Just before the former president's trip, his sons were also touring the Middle East.
Oh, right. Not just a vacation, I assume.
Definitely not. They were checking in on some pretty significant real estate projects.
Like what?
Well, the report showed visuals, actually. There's a hotel and golf complex planned in Qatar.
Okay, Qatar.
Then you've got this huge 80-story Trump Tower project in Dubai, very visible.
80 stories, wow.
And also a luxury tower project over in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Eric Trump apparently told a local paper how beautiful it was, how proud the family was.
So Qatar, Dubai, Saudi Arabia, all key locations.
All key locations where diplomatic discussions are also happening.
The timing, as you said, is definitely noteworthy.
Yeah.
Business development and diplomacy, they can run in parallel.
But this close, and
Yeah.
with deals of this potential size.
Exactly. It warrants a closer look, even if he's not formally running the company day-to-day anymore. The connections, the family name, the financial ties, they're still very much there.
Right. And it's not just real estate, is it? The report also mentioned something about cryptocurrency.
Ah, yes, that's another layer. His sons started a company, didn't they? Last year.
Yeah, called World Liberty Financial. And it's already pulled in, a very substantial investment.
How much are we talking?
$2 billion. With a B. From a fund based in Abu Dhabi.
$2 billion. For a company started just the year before.
Seems so. And it's co-led with the Witkoff brothers, Alex and Zach.
The Witkoffs. Okay, that name rings a bell.
It should. And the report mentions Zach Witkoff was recently seen in Dubai alongside Eric Trump.
So you've got this new crypto venture backed by Abu Dhabi money, linked to the former president's sons, and also linked to the Witkoffs.
Exactly. And this is where some of these threads really start to weave together in a potentially problematic way.
How so?
Because these Witkoff brothers, Alex and Zach, co-leading the crypto company, their father is Steve Witkoff.
Steve Witkoff.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he have a role in the administration?
A significant one. He was the former president's special envoy for the Middle East.
Ah, okay. The special envoy.
Yes. And the report highlights his deep involvement in those very sensitive negotiations, trying to get Israeli hostages released from Hamas.
Right. A really high-stakes diplomatic effort. And he's had some success.
Yes. The report mentioned he was involved in securing releases, including Eden Alexander recently.
Okay. So where's the potential conflict here?
Well, Think about who's crucial in those hostage negotiations. Qatar plays a really important role, right?
A key mediator.
And Steve Witkoff's company, his private business, apparently has significant dealings with Qatar. Douai, the report said, is a top client.
So the envoy negotiating with Qatar's help has business ties to Qatar.
Significant ones. And there's more. In 2023, the Qatari Sovereign Fund bought Steve Witkoff's Park Lane Hotel in New York
They bought his hotel.
for over $600 million, according to the report.
Wow. Okay, so that's a pretty direct financial link between the envoy's business and a key state involved in his diplomatic portfolio.
Yeah. It's quite the intersection, a key figure in hostage talks with major business connections, past and present, to one of the main parties facilitating those talks.
That definitely seems like a potential conflict of interest worth examining.
It's a lot to process. And the France 24 report didn't stop there. It also brought up Jared Kushner.
Right, the former president's son-in-law. He was the Middle East envoy before, the architect of the Abraham Accords.
Exactly. He doesn't have an official role now, but the report suggests his influence continues.
How so? Through his business dealings.
Precisely. He set up a private investment fund, Affinity Partners, back in 2001, I believe the report said. Or maybe more recently founded. Let me check. Founded after leaving office, but managing significant funds now.
Okay, Affinity Partners, how significant?
Currently managing nearly $5 billion.
$5 billion, that's serious capital.
It is. And here's the key part related to this region. A huge chunk of that, $2 billion, comes from the Saudi Sovereign Fund.
$2 billion from the Saudis. For the fund run by the guy who was just negotiating major deals, like the Abraham Accords, involving them.
That's what the report lays out. So you have a former top diplomat for the region now managing a massive fund heavily backed by capital from that same region.
It's another layer of this interplay between past political influence and current financial ties.
Definitely. And what was the official White House response to all these potential conflicts raised in the report?
According to France 24, a spokesperson basically just dismissed the concerns.
Dismissed them.
Yeah, sort of waved them away, which, might be standard procedure, politically speaking.
Sure, but it doesn't really make the questions go away, does it?
Not at all. It doesn't negate the fundamental issues around transparency, potential influence, whose interests are actually being served when diplomacy and private finance get this intertwined.
Right. So let's just quickly recap the different layers we've touched on, all based on that France 24 piece.
Okay.
You've got the family's real estate projects in Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia. You've got this new crypto company run by the sons, and the sons of the former special envoy getting $2 billion from Abu Dhabi.
Right, the Witkoff connection.
And that same former envoy, Steve Witkoff, having his own significant business history, including a recent huge hotel sale, with Qatar a key player in his diplomatic work.
A complex web there.
And then add Jared Kushner's multi-billion-dollar fund with $2 billion coming from the Saudi Sovereign Fund, all happening while major economic and potentially strategic deals like nuclear cooperation are being discussed between the U.S. and these same countries.
It's deeply interconnected. And just to reiterate, this deep dive is purely based on presenting the information as reported in that France 24 source.
Exactly. We're not adding our own speculation here, just laying out what the report presented. So maybe a final thought for you listening to consider. When you see this kind of intricate network of personal, financial, and political interests, what does that mean? What are the broader implications for, say, international relations, or even just for public trust and how diplomacy works?
Yeah, and maybe what does it tell us about how diplomacy itself might be changing, in the 21st century, when private finance and global politics seem to be blurring more and more?
It's definitely a complex picture, something to keep thinking about.